Welcome to the Melbourne Design Awards, Soren Luckens. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Good to have you here from Büro North. This project is about wayfinding, and it's about how we find our way through one of the premier Australian, of course, aeroplane providers, I suppose. Another way of putting it, Virgin Australia. It might be easier to say.
Yep.
What did you do?
Virgin engaged us to look at their guest experience for the new Perth terminal. So Virgin are very proactive and have a great desire to sort of lead the way in the user experience and provide the best guest journey for their patrons. So they developed a brief that sort of facilitated the development of a strategy that led from really a guest arriving at the boundary of Perth Airport to design that process and what they engage with all the way through to getting onto the plane. And there's quite a lot of complex systems in airports. They're highly process-driven environments. So you've got a whole lot of processes at drop-off, at check-in, bag drop, as you move through security, all the way through to your gate lounge. So there was a lot of stakeholders, but through it all, sort of a desire to make it a seamless experience.
So you're trying to get the customer to be able to arrive, know exactly where they're going, have precise movements, I guess, to do all of those different elements before they actually get on the plane. And it can be incredibly confusing. There's always so many signs and you never know where to go. So your job is to really try and simplify that and make it as cohesive and comprehensible as possible. What did you do?
Yeah, that's right. There is a huge amount of information at airports and there's competing agendas. So you've got advertising, you've got process information from the airport, you've got parking, taxi, you've got the airlines themselves with their advertising and their process information. So most people arrive pretty anxious and pretty stressed. A lot of people arrive late. And then depending on your own capabilities, if you're particularly young, particularly old, with kids, bags, sort of it gets more and more complex as you go. So our job really was to develop up the different user groups and develop up personas, and then to develop the journey map. So look at testing each one of those typical users against the environment and find as many problems, pain points, challenges and opportunities as we could, and then work with Virgin to streamline it and make it efficient, comfortable and engaging.
Virgin has had many different terminals around the world, so I'm sure they're pretty familiar with what they needed to do. So what did they ask you, or what did they know that you could then work off and then create something new that really works specifically for that location?
Yeah, sure. So our client, Tracy Rosewell and Claire Bagley, were, they're highly design focused. They're really committed to developing a world's best user experience. So they're sort of not just looking at the domestic market, they look at international trends and forecasting what's going to happen in the future. Aviation industry is moving really quickly at the moment. They drive a lot of the innovation, and we really bring the evidence-based process to manage that user experience through the space.
So when I walk in, I'm frequently late for planes, by the way, which is one of my greatest faults, I guess. So I'm always stressed when I catch a plane. And oftentimes you're right, you're looking around and you're trying to find desperately where you go. So that very first moment to walk into the airport, what is the first thing that we see? What makes it work in that moment?
What makes it work is really a clear environment, having legibility of process and stripping back any redundant information. So a lot of what we do is we test the cognitive load of passengers when they arrive, what they're forced to process, and manage that stress level. So we do a lot of testing with asking people who have just walked past an advertising banner at the entry, typically, what that information was. And it's in that scenario where we find that, a lot of people walk straight in the entry and there's a huge piece of advertising that's very expensive because it's right at the front of the terminal. And it's there where we learn about the fact that people are too stressed to actually comprehend and retain information. So the idea is to remove that advertising and move it to a place where you've gone through all your stressful check-in processes, procedures, and you're relaxed. At that point you could take on advertising, but really what we try to do as soon as you walk into the terminal is to deliver that sequential information so that you can plan your journey, because really our view is that a good user experience is all about just meeting expectations. So if I go into an airport and think, oh, this is going to be stressful, because airports are always stressful, and you can be delivered sequential, logical information. It makes the whole process much smoother and calmer.
Airports are also a competitive environment, so there are other companies that operate within there. I won't say any names, of course, but how does Virgin as a client compare in terms of the wayfinding? What did you want to do to create a point of difference?
Virgin's got an incredibly strong brand, and they've done a lot of work on building and protecting and developing that brand. So for us, we wanted to use the brand as wayfinding, so that there was a connectivity between the two, and for a passenger, there wasn't a disconnect about the big advertising sign and the check-in here. We want it to be a really seamless experience, and I guess that's where their focus is, on the passenger experience, the development of the brand, and looking after their guests to build that brand loyalty and patronage.
And so, what's the feedback? It's happening now. It's all there.
Yeah, it's up and running. It handles thousands of people. It goes pretty wild at peak times. At Perth, you get all the fly-out miners. It's a real transport hub for Southeast Asia, and there's a lot of transit flights, international to domestic and vice versa. So it's a really busy space. It flows, it hums. So we're really happy with how it's gone.
Yeah, it all works. Just one thing. I mean, Virgin, as you said, it's a huge brand. It's a global brand. At Büro North, working with that client, how do you inject a bit of you into something as big as that?
We try not to be honest.
Oh, that makes you good then.
Yeah, I mean, we've always sort of never positioned ourselves as having a design aesthetic, and that we were always sort of brand neutral in terms of our own design aesthetic. So a successful job for us is when nobody can really tell we're involved. If it looks like Virgin, feels like Virgin, people go through happy they're Virgin, and we're just in the back room doing the work. Sometimes the best design is that is invisible. Yeah,
absolutely.
True.
Congratulations, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.